Welcome to Triple B, also known as
Black, beautiful, and brave.
yeah, this is our Black Beautiful and Brave podcast, and we are so happy to meet with you today. This is a treat for you guys. We are visual now. Hey, ending chapter one with a bang by
Yeah.
coming to you virtually, right? We
Mhm,
started this
mhm.
as something that we wanted to enjoy to do with limited resources and supplies and knowledge,
Right.
and we've learned a lot. We've
Yes, we
learned a lot.
have.
With trial and error, and so we wanted to end season one by giving you a visual of our discussion or of us
Yeah.
as we discuss different topics, and hopefully we'll move forward into chapter two with going virtual, or not virtual, but a visual and audio.
Hmm.
And we'll still keep our audio for those who like listening to us on Spotify. But for those
Right.
who just want to see us, we are called Black Beautiful and Brave for a reason, right?
For a reason. Hello. Hello.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
do
yes.
so do we have to reintroduce ourselves, Candy?
Well, thank you for introducing me. I am Candy.
And I'm Ayanna, and you've been hearing our voices, and we have been having a blast. I'm just talking about what we do, our real lives, and you're gonna see us now agree and disagree on air with the camera. So see what that looks like.
Definitely. And we are excited to be able to do this. This is something we wanted to do, but it
Yeah,
was more so knowing how to, and how to realistically make it happen for us.
yeah,
Because we're both busy individuals,
we
right?
are, we
But
are, we
we
are.
have found that in season one, as we are going through season one or chapter one, we're receiving a lot of feedback from our audience, from you, our listeners.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and we figure, hey, let's keep it going and let's go visual, right?
Yeah.
So
And then I also want to say thank you, a huge thank you to our support system, those of you who
mm,
have been supporting us, liking us,
yeah,
listening to all of the episodes we've released so far, giving your comments. We're really grateful. We're not at 1 million viewers or listeners just yet. And it's not just about the numbers, but really it's about the feedback, hearing your comments, and then we also want to start including those comments into our actual programs.
definitely. A lot of your comments and feedback that you've been giving has been very helpful. So
Mhm.
with that being said, make sure you are following us on Facebook,
Yeah,
Instagram,
yeah,
Spotify by
yeah.
searching Black Beautiful and Brave Podcast.
That's right.
We're on Instagram. You're watching us here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, all of that. Do all the things. You know what to
Mhm,
do, right?
mhm,
You know
mhm.
exactly what to do. And so you've heard those others who are on their podcast telling you what to do. So do it, right?
Yep. And
Help
let me
us out.
just say that I know you probably have a lot of other podcasts that you listen to, or you're interested in, that's engaging. Ours is a little different, because we are not aiming for the celebrities. We are aiming to have you um, on our program and just tell your story. And the feedback we've been getting is that the things we talk about are things that you have been experiencing, but no one has vocalized it. So that's why
Mhm,
we're here, right?
mhm.
So we don't need any big names. We just need you.
Definitely. Now that you say that, Ayana, based on chapter one, we say chapter
Yes.
one instead of season one. In chapter one, we
Mhm.
talked about a lot of different things and a lot of similar things. Um, what would you say? Which episode would you say so far, thus far, has been a hit, or what you have been receiving a lot of feedback about?
Yeah. For me, it's a gender wars for sure. I feel like my friends and family who have been supporting us and tuning in and listening, they've enjoyed all of it. And of course, I don't know if they're saying that just because they're friends and family. But gender wars definitely seemed to hit a nerve with people. And I didn't think it would, because for me it was like, it wasn't that big of a deal. but I feel like it reached not just the female audience, but the male audience. Because we have male
Mm.
listeners as well. And I felt like the males kind of like, huh, okay, really kind of listened and wanted to say something specifically related to gender wars.
Wow. Okay. So
Mhm.
we're reaching the guys too.
I know, I
Ideally,
didn't think about that.
this was for females, and
Yes.
so for the
Yes.
women, for the ladies. However, no, we're reaching a group of individuals who
Mhm.
don't share the same, if you would say, XY chromosome.
Mhm.
Right, the genetics, but, and it speaks to them, and I think I like that we are able to do that, and for me, the episode that I've been receiving a lot of feedback, on, or have received the most feedback on, is Not Salty, Helping Your Ex.
Ooh.
Yeah. More
Ooh.
so for, yeah, for women and for men, mostly men,
Mhm.
that I've received who are actually interested in joining us and having their own conversation, right?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
one male's perspective, and, I've had other men who are like, "I wanna get on, and I wanna share my experience."
And
Um
we want you to come on and share your experience.
and that's the key.
Yeah.
Some want to, some don't, right? They're
Yeah.
like, "No, I
Yeah.
just wanna just share my comment. I just wanna share it with you." And so, therefore, I wanna encourage you guys that as you are going through, our podcast or different shows that resonate with you, go ahead and leave a comment. If you're not interested
Mm.
to, like, join us on
Right.
camera, join us in the comments.
Mhm.
Leave some feedback, share your perspective, and so we can have a dialogue that continues on beyond the show or beyond
Yeah.
the, episode. And so, yeah, that one really spoke to many, and the men that I have who have had something to say were those who were divorced, who've
Mm.
been in marriages,
Mhm.
who've been married, and have had relationships, and who are a little bit older and who that have a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
And I've
Mhm.
had women who've agreed and, aligned with what, that episode we had Samuel on, who
Mm.
aligned and agreed with what he was saying, and so
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of different inputs, and, we just want this platform to be a place where people can share their inputs and their
Yeah.
perspective and their experience, because
Mhm.
there are others who are going through the same thing. That was one
Yeah.
thing another person said, from another episode, that, it was therapeutic to
Mm.
hear what we were talking about. I
Right.
think it was more so which episode, what love got to do with it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that one was deep too because of I guess the angle that we took. For me though, the one that really struck out that I think I personally like is the dress reform. I feel like that one, to me, I enjoyed that one the most. And it was interesting getting feedback in terms of, dress reform. Because growing up in the church, that was a huge topic. And even then, we didn't focus on the topic, focus on it the way that is normally done, where we talk about, actually how you dress, like we kind of went a different direction. But at the same time, I feel like it's really important, especially in this generation, because anything seems to go now for church. And not just church, but anything seems to go for most events, unless that particular event or building or institution has a specified dress code. And I
Mhm.
feel like that is such a reflection of who you are on the inside, the way you dress.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, I get it. Um, that if you would say our title was just, fishing for an audience and they
Mhm,
thought we were gonna speak
mhm.
one way, I think the reason we didn't take it the direction that most would have thought is because I think you and we agree on, uh, the idea about
Mhm,
dress is
mhm.
not necessarily spiritual.
Yeah.
You would hear those when they talk about dress reform, meaning we need to change the way we dress, not just when we're in front of, uh, an audience at church, but in all that we do, and that it's very
Exactly.
spiritual.
Exactly.
Um, And so therefore you would find those who are wearing long dresses all the time, for
Mhm.
women. For men, they may not wear a tie or a belt.
Mm.
Those who are
Mm.
very, very conservative, and I think you and I, align in those thoughts that we don't believe that
Mm.
necessarily,
Mm.
and that it's spiritual, is a spiritual matter, and that
Mm.
there's a need for us to change how we dress in order to get closer to God. Um,
Yeah.
Granted, we don't have anyone who believes that, who can speak to that on our show, but I think
Mm.
it was just more so a concern about um, dress code front
Mm.
of others. That's what we wanted to more so address, or we
Yeah.
wanted to talk about the dress code. If it's from the perspective of the video
Mm.
or audio that we heard, one person talk about those who are performing, and you're saying you're calling
Mhm.
Christian, but then you're dressed this way in front of an audience,
Right,
right?
right. And the thing is, at the end of the day, you know how to change your dress code based on where you're going. So if you're going to the White House, there's no way you can turn up there in a spaghetti strap dress, no matter how cute it is, right? There is an expectation that you're dressed appropriately,
But
right?
guess what? I think someone would. They would think
They
this is not
would,
that
but guess
cute.
what happens when they get to the entrance, the door, right? They're going to show them the policy and hand them a
Mm.
jacket, right? Because if you notice, almost everyone, all of it, when you see pictures with the sitting president of the U.S., people who are in the office, I have yet to see, right, anyone standing next to the president without who is not appropriately attired. And appropriately means your shoulders are covered, your chest is covered, your dress is a certain length. Even for young people that show up there, they have to be dressed a certain way, you
And I'm
know.
sure they were informed prior
Of
to,
course.
this is what the standard is
That's
in
right.
this place.
That's
And
right.
therefore, I totally agree with you, and therefore, that's why I agree with the point that I made, or I stand with the point that I
You agreeing with
made.
yourself?
Yeah. Or I stand with the point that I made, that every institution need
Mhm.
to create their dress code and share it,
Mhm.
right? This
Yep,
is
yep.
our policy. It's not because of this will bring you closer to God.
Right.
However, this is what our standard is, and we have our reasons for it based
Mhm.
on those who come. And this is how we want to present ourselves. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
once you leave here, if you decide to wear your spaghetti string strap to go wherever, hey, that's you. It's
Yeah,
okay. But when you come here and you stand on our stage, this is what we expect.
yeah.
So,
And I
yeah.
feel like each topic that we did had a special relevance. So even us starting with the single topic, introducing ourselves, talking about being single and available, because we talked about that. The fact that we know a lot of single people who are not available, but who do promote themselves as being available, and especially ladies. The men say we do not ask specific questions, right? And we talked about that, right? So saying, he says he's single, but is he available? And Candy's like, is there anyone who you know of who will say otherwise? Right? So you're saying
Yeah.
you're single, you're saying you're available, and there's someone out there who's like, hell no, no, he's with me,
Right.
but you don't know.
And I would like to add to that, even if you ask that question, I think it's very important to ask, when was your last relationship?
Good
When did
point.
you end your last relationship?
Right.
I have learned of a situation where, although those same questions, she asked those same questions, is
Mm.
there anyone who might be upset or
Mm.
might feel some kind of way
Mm.
because we're here together on a date?
Mhm.
And they're like, no, no. Later, uh, he became honest with himself to
Uh-huh.
then share that he had gotten out of a relationship and he's still dealing with his emotions.
And that's okay. I think that's
It
perfectly
is
fine. It's perfectly
perfectly
fine.
fine. And so I think that therefore he wanted to remain friends with her, but
Mhm.
she was already interested in moving romantically in a relationship with him. So
Mm,
she had decided opt to not to remain friends with him, but say
mm,
that, there's no hard feelings. She appreciates his honesty,
right.
and that if they were to see each other and he is okay, he is ready to move forward, and if she is available, she wouldn't mind, talking with him again, and
Mhm, mhm.
going
And
out
that's
with him
fair.
again. So
I think
it
that's
is.
fair, but be honest. And it's not just for the males, for the females too. Like be honest with this potential new partner, right? Tell them your actual position rather than kind of hoping that the situation that you're in is kind of gonna kind of work out somehow. Like how? How is it gonna work out if you still have these strong feelings for this person who you've been attached to for all these months, years, and you have a new person?
Yeah.
Someone's gonna get hurt.
Yep. Someone's gonna get hurt. So yeah. Another episode that I liked as well, now that you guys can see us, is when we talked
Mhm.
about our black hair. Ooh, as
Oh, I
you can
forgot about
see.
that.
So I would still like to say I'm newly locked. These are
Mhm,
micro locks.
mhm,
And it's been for me now, it's been a year.
mhm.
January of 2025 made it a year. So I'm
Oh,
over a year
congrats.
now
Oh,
since
wow.
been locked. Started at micro locks and started with plaits actually, and then
Mm,
started to interlock. Whereas before, you can probably still see my braids in each of the lock, but now you can't.
mhm.
Let's see. Let's do the hair influencer thing. How
Okay,
you
so
can
it's a little
see,
fuzzy still, Candy.
huh?
You
What
can see
now?
it fully.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But you can't
yeah.
see the braid.
No, you can't see the
It's
braid.
locked out, you can see, "Oh." So this week, I actually had an appointment where I actually saw a loctician, a professional loctician,
Mhm.
and this is the first time a loctician put their hands in my hair, um, and, just gave me some tips on things that I need to do just to make
Yeah,
sure, my hair is doing well, and so she gave some suggestions, she noticed some things, and so sometimes it's just a learning, process when learning how to love your hair, how to style your hair, learning how to
mhm.
accept your hair for what it's gonna do. It's gonna do what
Yeah,
it want to do
yeah,
when it's natural.
yeah, and mine is, regular locks. It looks a little different because I do put it in, like, these little bumps kinda thing, like I do, and really it's longer than this, but I keep cutting mine, and I'm on a 10-year journey thus far. So it's been quite interesting. Locks has its own up and downs. And of course, as we talk about going through the ugly phase, that was also a thing. Um, but it's beautiful. I always love my natural hair. And as I mentioned in that episode, like almost all the hairdressers I went to growing up hated my hair. They said it
Mm.
was so coarse, so dry, so, you know. But again, I had to learn to appreciate my own hair. So yeah, that's a whole different discussion. And of course, whatever hairstyle you have your hair in, just know that that's if that works for you, then that's fine.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it boils down to healthy hair, right? So
Mhm.
make sure that your hair is healthy. It would be nice for us to have like a hairdresser on too at some point to talk about
Ooh.
the hair journey and hair and relationship because as women, especially Black women, we have this relationship, love hate relationship with our hair. And
Mhm.
we look to our men for validation. And sometimes I feel like our men don't, and I'm talking specifically about Black men, I feel like our men don't understand that journey and they don't really express it. So you might put on a wig and they're like, oh my gosh, your hair looks so beautiful. And then you take off the wig and they're like, "Mm." Like crickets.
Well, this is another topic, but I know I have come across quite a few men um who don't care for
And when you
or
say men, are we talking specifically about Black men or just men of all
men. I'm
races?
talking about black men. That's who I have been engaged with. Let's
Okay.
say that. And it could be all men, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
as far as hair,
mhm,
they don't care too much for um uh extensions and stuff like
mhm,
that,
mhm,
wigs.
mhm.
There's some who just don't. Since I've been locked,
Mhm.
and so this is another topic. I am online dating, or have been,
Yeah, that's
and
another topic, the online dating. We're gonna talk
yeah,
about that
yeah.
too.
And so I have met, different individuals who are different men who prefer the natural. They prefer locked. They prefer no wigs and with the lace front. They're like,
Yeah, but
nah.
again, that's so I've heard that too. But I mean, men say it, but in practice could be something different. I know I've heard men also say that they prefer just a good hairstyle. So whether it is a
Right.
wig, braids, you have a shorter cut, whatever it is, but they once their hair looks good, right? They don't want you looking all raggedy. But they still want you with a hairstyle that looks good, you know?
Absolutely. There's some who just don't care as long as it looks good. And there's
Mm,
some who are like, nah, don't do it at all. Right?
yeah.
So you find men, there's some who feel strongly about it. There's some who don't care.
Mm,
And there's
mm,
some, I don't know if I've ever heard or seen or met anyone who says, no, I prefer your hair to be straight. You know, I prefer your hair
mm,
long and flowy. I don't like
mm.
I don't know if I've ever met someone or a man or have heard of a man in real life, right?
We're
Who
talking about black men specifically.
I mean, I'm just saying men. I don't know if I've heard,
Mm.
right?
What I would say is that with the locks, I believe I probably got more compliments from, um, especially in the earlier years, non-black men than black
Okay,
men. Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah. Um, and I do afterwards, yeah, I met more black men who were more appreciative. That's true. But I think it was a whole cultural mind shift kind of thing for the men, especially with the stigma that has been attached to locks for many years. At least in
Mm,
the Caribbean where I'm from, there has been a stigma attached to locks, people who have locks, how they take care of their locks, all of those things factored into this perception of someone having, a woman having locks.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, great topics. Something that I love the
Yeah.
idea of bringing in a professional hairstylist,
Oh, yeah.
a black hairstylist, or stylist who specializes with black hair. Let's put it like,
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
if
And it
you
does
are
make a
one,
difference. Huh?
and if
What's
you
that?
are one, I was going to say, if you are one who's watching this episode and would
Yeah,
love to join us to have this discussion, contact us, reach out to us, let us know. We would love
definitely,
to have you on here. And with that being
definitely.
said, the other episodes that I thoroughly enjoyed were those that we were able to bring guests on, Rachel
Yeah.
and Alva, who
And
joined
fair
us.
enough, right. So Rachel, right? So she was a single mom for many years, married, divorced, has written 2 books, right? She has her book, then she did a revised version. She has a phenomenal story talking about, her conservative upbringing, very powerful. So again, it's different persons, women, we're empowering women, Black women in particular, right? So if you have a book that you wrote that's out there, that really is sharing an important message, then yeah, definitely. We want to have you on.
Yeah, and then we had Alva who came on and talked about her
Mm,
journey raising 2 Black girls.
in the
And
South.
how in the South, I would say South Florida and then also in the
Mm,
Midwest, right?
mhm,
And how that journey was from South Florida to Georgia to
mhm.
their journey, with their
Yeah.
identity and the struggles. And, as mothers or as aunties,
Mhm,
as women,
mhm,
older women, we wanna be role models for young Black girls and those who look like
mhm.
us. We want to be what we wish we had,
Yeah.
right?
And
Growing
can I
up.
just add and just making it a little more topical in that sense. So Juneteenth, right? I was listening to some Juneteenth information, and we know, but those of us who are not in the Caribbean or not in the US, Juneteenth was like an emancipation day for slaves in the South, even though The slaves everywhere else in the U.S. were emancipated, I think, in January 1, but June 19th, that's when the slaves in Texas got emancipated. It's like 2.5 years after the official proclamation in 1963.
3
Three and
years
a half,
later, 3
3 years,
years
right?
later in
3 years,
Galveston, Texas.
and
Galveston,
then
Texas.
and Florida, which I found out more recently, was also one of those states that was also like late in releasing their slaves. As you mentioned, Alva, with the raising girls in the South, Florida also, right? Did not was not was one of those states that did not respond to the proclamation. And it's interesting because as I was telling my nieces and nephews in the Caribbean, we do celebrate Emancipation Day. We do have Emancipation Day celebrations in the Caribbean.
Yeah, we do. I
Mhm,
know at least for Haiti, ours is January 1st. That's our
mhm,
Independence Day.
mhm. And ours is August, usually around August 1st, 2nd, thereabouts.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
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 And I do appreciate Juneteenth because, it's the spirit of we all are not free until everyone is free.
Right, right. And that's the spirit because really not the actual slavery ended in the US. It didn't end on June 19th, but June 19th was significant because that meant the end of slavery everywhere in the US.
Yeah.
You know,
And they say Juneteenth because they couldn't say 19th.
19th
So
to
they said
Juneteenth.
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 Which is quite interesting. I remember
Mhm.
learning about that, actually when I went to college. I don't think I remember learning
Mm,
about it in high school. I went to an HBCU on Florida
mm,
A&M,
mm,
FAMU, and they at that school at that time, I don't know if it's still required in order to get a degree from that institution,
mm,
you had to take African American history, and that was part of the
mm.
history that you had to learn.
Wow.
Especially what I've seen now with the advancing of social media and information being shared out there, a lot of things that I learned in my African American history, America is just now getting game
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Talking about Juneteenth, I've learned about that since early 2000s,
Yeah.
where people were celebrating it, but it wasn't in a mass.
Right.
Even learning
Wasn't a
about
federal holiday. It wasn't. I only
no,
found out about it, I wanna say, honestly, maybe like 3, 4 years ago?
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a movement, to get your
Mhm.
history, to get the information out there, even about Black Wall Street, in Tulsa,
Mm.
Oklahoma. I learned about that there. And so it's
Wow.
just the effort of getting our history or getting Black American history
Yeah.
out in America,
Mm.
so that they can learn about it. And so
Yeah.
now I'm like seeing people who are talking about it and they're passionate. I'm like, yeah, I knew that already, especially with my
Yeah.
degree, from
Yeah.
Florida A&M. I majored in, psychology, which really is more
Mhm.
Black psychology, which is a
Right.
whole 'nother thing in how
Right.
their approach to, Black people and learn in history is very important.
Yeah.
Um, so I had to learn all of that, and it was very enlightening, insightful, and which
Mhm.
brought me to a journey of continuing to learn history, not just here in America, of
Mhm.
African people. I like to
Yeah.
say African people who live in America, African people who live
Wow.
in the Caribbean, African
Yeah.
people who live in South America. That's how I, have been learned to talk about it, that way, because that's where we came from. We came from Africa,
That's right. That's right.
and we live here now.
And it's important. So we might think that this information pertains only to Black people or people of color, but the more we know about each other, like no matter where
Mm.
you're from. So if you're from Africa, if you're from India, if you're from Europe, the more you know about each other helps us to really understand each other better, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people feel like, oh, it's all about they only want Black history, they only want Black information about Africa. But it's not just that. It's really the idea is that learning about each other helps us to understand each other more, you know.
Mhm.
So very important. I think the topic that we probably disagreed on the most as we kind of wrap this up is shooting your shot.
Yeah, you guys probably just heard "Shooting Your Shot" right before you watched this episode. So, yeah, you know, it's kinda fresh. It's kinda still fresh, here for us about shooting your shot, and so It is what it is.
Yes, yes,
It is
yes.
what it is.
We had different perspectives, and granted, different generations too, because I am a little older than Candy. I've seen some different things to her, different life experiences, of course. So yeah, we don't, Candy and I don't always agree, as you know by now.
And it's okay, and it's okay. We're just hoping that, you guys continue to join us in this
Yeah,
journey of dialogue,
yeah.
about different topics. Join us in the comments,
Oh
join
yeah,
us on screen. If there's something that you want to talk about or you have some suggestions, please share that with us, by sending us a direct message
mm-hmm.
or connecting with us if you know us independently or individually. We do have a Facebook family,
Yeah.
where you can join us and join the conversation. That's where we post like, hey, another episode has
Has
made
happened.
available. So
Yep.
definitely go ahead and watch, but then definitely follow us on these different platforms. We don't have TikTok yet. I don't know if we want
No,
to
I
just
don't know
yet.
if we want to. I don't know. I'm not into TikTok. As Candy knows, I'm kind of slow on the social media front. So I'm working on it, working on it.
She's working on it, guys. She's working on it, guys. And so, just looking to find ways to grow our community. I'll continue with these type of conversations. This is not just our voice. This is a place for
Yeah,
your voice to be heard as well. So,
yeah, yeah.
yes, with that being said, I think our time is coming to an end. Thank you for joining us on chapter
Thank you, thank you,
one.
thank you.
Chapter one of the Black, Beautiful, and
Oh, why
Brave
are we saying
podcast.
chapter? Because most people say season, just in case, we're saying chapter, chapter, like what's going on.
Yeah, because this is like a book, right? An
Mhm, mhm,
exploration. And
mhm,
so, in chapter 2, we plan on bringing more guests. We've had some
mm,
guests we wanted to bring in chapter 1, didn't get a
mhm,
chance to do so. We've already have
mhm,
invites that have been placed, uh,
mhm,
uh, different episodes already in place in the making. And
mhm.
so, yeah, look forward to hearing more from us. So
Yeah,
definitely like, subscribe to our YouTube page so you can learn about when each episode is going.
yeah,
So far, you may have noticed we've posted episodes every 2 weeks. So we might
yeah,
make a change
yeah,
to that,
yeah,
as we move forward with the work that we're doing. So,
yeah.
with that being said, we are Triple B.